Welcome to Resource PNG. Thank you for your company. For the show, we talk about state-owned enterprises. We'll also chat with a company that knows a lot about talking to landowners, Firewall Logistics. State-owned enterprises, or SOEs, what are they? These are organizations that a government creates so that it can participate in commercial activities on the government's behalf. In PNG, these organizations come under the Independent Public Business Corporation, or IPBC, and the IPBC reports to the Public Enterprise and State Investment Ministry. The minister responsible, Mr. Ben Micah, talked about his ministry's viewpoint on SOEs.
Welcome to the show, Minister.
Thank you, Andy.
Minister, as a minister, you're watching the newfound wealth not so newfound, but wealth of our economy at the moment. What will your ministry do to help maximise the benefits to our people?
The focus on our ministry at the moment is essentially to improve the performance of the state-owned enterprises. It's something which I've already outlined this address that I gave to the Business Council and also to the seminar which was conducted some months ago. And to ensure that these companies are performing efficiently and profitably so that we can begin to see some dividend flow into the government coffers. The next thing is to maximize our participation in the resource sector, because that is a sector which has got a window that is going to close at some stage.
Yes.
10 years, depending on the size of the resources in the mining and oil and gas sector, and even in the forestry and fishery sector. 20 years, 50 years, even 100 years. This resource sector is non-renewable. But the gains in the short term is quite high, as we now beginning to experience in the boom that is taking place and will take place in the next 20 to 50 to 100 years. So the focus on our ministry in the area of the ministry with the state investments is to ensure that the participation of the people of Papua New Guinea through the state involvement is maximized. Yes. So that we can use the gains from the exploitation of our non-renewable resources to underpin the wealth of the nation that we must build within that closing window.
Right.
Yeah, of wealth creation and generation.
State-owned enterprises have got their work cut out for them. After the break, Mr. Micah will cover the specifics of how the ministry plans to increase the money coming into the government's coffers. There is a lot of interest from foreign companies wanting to form private-public partnerships with local agencies. Waigani wants to adjust their approach to foreign and offshore investments. Taxes are a major source of income from resource companies and foreign investments. Public Enterprise Minister Ben Micah thinks there are a number of things that still need adjusting.
The mining sector, which has been much longer in the country than the oil and then now the gas, has essentially been in the hands of the private sector.
Right.
Mostly foreign investors. The state has participated in some minority interest in the development of the Panguna mines on Bougainville, Oktedi, not very much in Lihi, Pogra with some limited landowner involvement, right, and some provincial governments in Oktedi, landowners in Lihi. So the large bulk of the investment has essentially come from the private sector, yes, which has mostly been from foreign investors. In this boom, I see the state coming in as the biggest partner on behalf of the people of Papua New Guinea, because there is no local Papua New Guinean investor or company that has the capacity at the moment to participate in a large scale in these resource projects. So the state through IPBC, the state through Petromin, the state through PNG Sustainable are the vehicles that can participate in terms of shareholding. So through shareholding, we can maximize our revenue through dividend flow into the government coffers, which then can be used to farm out to the provision of health services, education services, law and order, and other services that the government is providing, infrastructure, etc. So by participating as equity partners, this is an area where I feel the state should become more involved. Prime Minister has stated at this conference that there is a need to look at more participation of Papua New Guineans, either as the state or landowners or provincial governments or Papua New Guinean shareholders in the ownership of this resource development. Secondly, I believe that we should review the tax regime and look at how we can maximize also by balancing how much concessions we give to resource companies in terms of tax concessions and duty exemptions, and how much we maximize through taxation in other areas, so that we are not losing too much in one area. I feel that there's a lot of benefits that are being gained by the resource sector development of the country, but in the short term during the development the construction phase of these projects, the government may be losing out quite a lot because of the big investment that is put into construction, and then we give away too much exemptions, and in the end, in the fluctuation of the prices of the commodities during the period of production, in the medium and longer term, maybe the state is not really fully maximizing its potential revenue that it gets from projects. So we need to creatively look at how the state through taxation maximizes its revenue from the construction phase to the production phase, and even look at the marketing of these commodities. There is already issues being raised at cabinet level, whether the state is really getting the maximum taxes from the revenues that the resource companies are getting, maybe because there could be transfer pricing. I don't know, I'm just making a general comment here. But these are some areas that I feel we need to tighten up the maximum benefit that should accrue to the government for the benefit of the people of Papua New Guinea. Remember, this is a closing window.
Yes.
It sounds big, it sounds plenty in terms of the quantum of money and revenue, but it is going to close shortly. So we want to maximize our benefit, either as equity partners through dividend flow, or from creative taxation regimes that can maximize our gains from the construction of these projects to production and also at the marketing stage. So these are some areas that I am seriously looking at in terms of our participation in that regard. I'm also happy to take note of the Prime Minister's comments about the issue of fly out into resource projects. And I make particular reference to how the Panguna mine was developed and how it developed a complete infrastructure for its workers, both local and foreign, by creating townships at Arawa, Kieta, Toniba, where quite a large expatriate family was based on that island. When you went to Kieta and Toneva, you thought you were in some town in North Queensland. Why is it that after 20 years of the closure of that mine, after 20 years of Kutubu, Pogra, Oktedi, we do not have such infrastructure where we can have these towns being developed post-mining as livable places where we can promote other industries. Essentially,
you can raise children and expatriate families,
correct.
no matter where you're from.
And a lot of these mines are based in very beautiful scenic places, in the mountains of Oktedi. That can be turned into a tourist destination. Pogra, Lihi, Misima. It could have been turned into sustainable industries. It could have been turned into a fishing port in Misima, where fishing industries could have. So I think we should look also in creating this economies of scale around these mines now while they are maximizing their revenue, to ensure that once the mining stops, once the oil is being pumped out, the gas is gone, there is some place there that will continue to be a hive of economic activity for the communities around those project areas, and also for the foreigners to continue to come and enjoy sustainable, livable things and activities that will continue to exist in those communities.
Coming up, we look at public-private partnerships and how the resource sector has affected state-owned enterprises. Every major organization has felt the impact of the resource boom. State-owned enterprises are no exception. The boom has shed light on some of these companies' blemishes. This government has plans, and they have 4.5 years to do that in. And they're very determined to achieve those targets.
Minister, you're an advocate for public-private partnership. Can you comment on the public and private partnerships, particularly in the resource industry?
Public, meaning that the government now has monopoly over the provision of mostly utility services, communication, power, water, sewage, through telecom, PNG Power, and Edaranu for Port Moresby, and water PNG for the rest of the urban centers throughout the country. Through the reforms that were initiated during Sam Makara's term as Prime Minister, and through my role as Executive Chairman of the Privatization Commission, which was the forerunner of the IPPC, we began that process of corporatizing what used to be state authorities. PNG Power was called ELCOM, Electricity Commission. Telecom used to be Post and Telecommunication. Eniguni used to be the National Airline Commission, and the Water Board was running the water. So we corporatized all these entities, and they are now operating under the Companies Act and under the strict regulations of the Companies Act, meaning that the directors are now responsible for, under the fiduciary duties as directors under the Companies Act. So I've seen some general improvement in the governance of these corporations for the last 10 years. And like I stated at the Chamber of Commerce conference, more could have been done, but I am reasonably satisfied. I can see through a review that I commissioned to be done of the performance of the companies, the financial performance, as well as the performance of the workforce. I am reasonably satisfied. Revenues are being made, but there needs to be a lot of improvement in terms of the overheads and the operation costs are still too high. So the governance structures under the Companies Act are in place now, and the culture shift from public service to business environment is now slowly being put in place. I am happy with that. But I am not satisfied that time is on my side. Neither is time on the side of these SOEs. Essentially because of the huge drive that the investment climate of the resource boom is creating demands a lot more from these SOEs. A demand that is just now beyond the government's capacity to create, beyond the internal management capacity of the companies to meet. So therefore, I believe that in order to fast track the transition to meet the requirements of the resource boom, providing the power to ensure that WAFI goal starts on time, the Ramu grid has to be upgraded. Yandara needs power from that power supply. In order for the increase in port activities in Port Moresby because of the need for logistic support for all the mining operations that will be taking place in Central Province, oil and gas in Gulf. Port Moresby power has to be upgraded. The Brown River project has to be constructed. And the government does not have the funds, neither the manpower capacity to quickly move to meet those demands, and at the same time, the growing requirements of the urban population, plus the rural energy requirements that the rural communities, through the district support that the government has now put big money into for the next year. So you see, the demand is now outstrip supply in the provision of these services. There is a huge demand for telecommunication services to go beyond the towns and cities into rural communities, where Digicel has created the appetite for SMS and all the kinds of communication products that are being sold by Digicel and Be Mobile and even Telecom. So in order to do that, I need to bring in private partners who have the capital, who have the skills, and who have the networking through their global networks to fast track the transition. And that is why it is very important. And I received so many proposals now from energy companies from all over the world who want to provide IPPs, independent power providers, by looking at geothermal, looking at solar, looking at wind. Even I've got a proposal from Oil Sets to do a biomass a project down in Makam Valley that will produce about 60 to 70 megawatt of power by planting a certain tree species that is mature in 18 months and is fed into a biomass plant that produces power. I got proposals from companies who can do biomass from oil palm, from coconut, from grass, from corn, from all kinds of interesting proposals, So I'm open to look at these things. Some of them may be crazy, but many of them, I believe, are doable. So I encourage, technology. I encourage capital injection and creative management strategies that will reactivate the performance of these companies into that level of transition that will enable us to meet the increasing demand of services that will be provided. So that's the strategy that I'm driving in terms of telecommunication, energy, water and sewage, the development of ports, even going beyond the large urban centers into coastal communities and islands that will connect a market chain for products from farmers and even from saving resource companies that are operating in remote mountain communities or island communities into a huge transport hub that will link shipping and link roads and link air into the region and into global markets around the world. That is my challenge.
So what kind of a timeline are you anticipating for implementing this?
Well, my mandate is saying that the government stays for 5 years. It's really 5 years. I want to ensure within that 5 years that I deliver 100% telecommunication to the rest of the country. I intend to relocate the Port Moresby port and build a much bigger port and to complete the tidal basin project in Lae, and then ensure that I get Ramu second phase into a stage of issuing the contracts to begin construction within these 5 years. I intend to put the huge Purari project, into feed stage, so that within a 10-year time frame, Purari will underpin the total energy requirements of the country,
Right.
and export power to Australia and Indonesia. And then in between, I want to ensure that Port Moresby becomes a major international airport. So I'm working together with the Civil Aviation Minister to look at the development of Port Moresby Airport.
Right.
I intend to ensure that the water and sewerage systems in Port Moresby, Lae, Mount Hagen, Goroka, all the major towns, feasibilities are done so that within 5 to 10 years we upgrade and improve the sanitation, the sewerage, and the water
Right.
supply for all the urban centers, and work on a program to bring water and sewerage into rural communities in the country through the SOEs. So let's say 5 to 10 years.
With the recent increase in costs on the LNG project, what options does the state have to raise funding?
We already have funding most of the funding is available for that cash call on the cost increase on the Exxon project, from leftover from the earlier call on the currency fluctuations, which enabled us to contribute 900 million kina early this year.
Right.
I believe Treasury, through a decision that has already been made by Cabinet, is raising the balance of about 200 million. So it's under control.
Thank you for your time, Minister.
Thank you.
When we come back, we focus on our national carrier, Air Niugini. This organization is reaching for new heights. Air Niugini has come under fire for expensive airfares, flight delays and cancellations. With more competition, Air Niugini is not taking the back seat. The national carrier is adamant on maintaining its brand, and their board wants to keep it that way.
I'm speaking with Garth McElwain, the chairman of Air Niugini. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Nice to be with you.
Now, with the airline transport industry growing so much, there's obviously a lot more competition. How's that affected Air Niugini?
Air Niugini is a full-service national carrier for Papua New Guinea, of which we're all very proud. Certainly there is worldwide competition in the industry now, and many airlines have had to accept the challenge of low-cost carriers entering the market, much the same as we are now experiencing in Papua New Guinea through opposition coming into Jackson's airport. In this respect, in the longer term, we have a strategic plan to upgrade our aircraft, particularly the two 767s now on the international run, where complete interior refurbishment will happen next year, commencing about March or April, where the seating will be upgraded and the in-flight entertainment will be upgraded to make sure that we protect our market for Air Niugini.
Okay. Now, has the National Airports Corporation been able to support these increasing demands on it?
There's increasing demands, of course, all the time as the passenger numbers grow. We now service, I think, in the vicinity of 1.5 million passengers per year. There is a considerable amount of work to be done on some of the domestic airports so that we can utilise or fully utilise our fleet, particularly the 737 capacity. But yes, National Airports Corporation are working together with us in fact, their chairman and their CEO have attended our board meeting on a couple of occasions to discuss high-level policy matters and high-level requirements of Air Niugini, and we work closely together with them as we go forward.
With the economic boom in the resources sector, what future plans does Air Niugini have?
Well, the boom is not new. It's been going on for a couple of years now, and our fleet has grown from say 12 aircraft 6 or 7 years ago to over 20 aircraft now. And as we go forward next year too, we expect probably 5% to 8% growth in passenger numbers, and this of course requires additional fleeting, additional aircraft to serve our customer demand. We expect to take delivery of 2 more Q400 aircraft, particularly to assist our domestic fleet, hopefully in the next few weeks, together with another Boeing 737 aircraft. That will increase our capacity so that we can meet the challenges of 2013. But refleeting and upgrading the fleet is something that the board discusses as an ongoing discussion. It is challenging in the environment of Papua New Guinea, but yes, we are addressing those issues as we go along, and hopefully we can manage the growth in passenger numbers perhaps better as we go forward than we certainly have in the last 12 months, where we have not had any spare capacity whatsoever to serve our passengers.
Right. Now, as chairman, you've created a state-owned enterprise that now has annual revenues of more than 1 billion kina, making it larger than most companies in PNG. How would you rate the scale of your operations, and can you keep going at this rate?
Yes, Air Niugini has developed into a significant operation, as I said a moment ago, with an excess of 20 aircraft, 3 Boeing 767s, shortly 2 Boeing 737s, together with our domestic fleet. It is a large operation. Yes, our revenues exceeded 1 billion kina, I think, in 2010. So that growth will continue with the growth in passenger numbers as we expect. I guess we're amongst the largest state-owned enterprises, certainly. And of course that's a challenge, to manage those revenues and to manage them effectively and profitably without putting more burden on our travelling public as far as increasing airfares. And I'd like to emphasise that it's not the board's wish to have to increase airfares. We're looking to make more efficient adjustments within the way we operate and use more efficient aircraft so that we can maintain our current cost structures and serve the public in a better manner.
Right. Now, Australia and other countries are concerned about the possible fall in mineral prices and economic growth. Does Air Niugini need to plan for this possibility, and what plans do you have in place?
Well, the board reviews our results regularly. We meet every 6 weeks. I personally don't believe that there'll be any significant drop in mining and oil and gas prices in the next, certainly the next 5 years or so. I think the growth in world demand, led by Asia, China and other nations, will continue. However, of course, if there's any change in the market in Air Niugini, in the areas that Air Niugini operates, we'll quickly address those by attending to our schedules and our aircraft routines as and when required, yes.
Thank you very much for being here today.
Okay, my pleasure, thank you.
So what is Air Niugini doing to ensure that it soars to new heights? Find out when we come back. In recent years, Air Niugini has been forced to pick up its game since the introduction of other airline companies and the resource boom. The LNG project meant that more flights had to be introduced to meet customer demands. The company is going through a revamp, and there is more to come.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you.
Now, the current growth in the economy, particularly from the effects of the LNG project affecting many businesses, I know. How is it affecting the national carrier?
Okay. In relation to national carrier's impact, I think our travelling public will see it already in action. We fly to Singapore 4 times a week, which used to be only twice a week flight some time ago. And also to Philippines, we fly twice a week. We used to fly once a week, now we fly 3 times a week. and also between December and January we are flying 4 times a week. That's on international. On domestic, we have increased the fleet to service the traveling public, and I believe that constantly Air Niugini had close to 10% traffic growth in domestic market, and about half of that is related to the LNG related traffic. Right. The international we had on the Asian sector had about 30% increase. This mainly related to the LNG project, and also in terms of the fleet wise, the 1767 aircraft has been increased to 3 767s, and still going through the process of restructuring, and the domestic fleet has increased from 9 aircraft to 25 aircraft. As at end of this year, we will have 28 aircraft in operation. So it has given a tremendous boost to the airline, and also this growth is still continuing.
So your chairman mentioned, I think, 1 million passengers or something.
We are moving 1.2 million passengers,
right,
and it's still in the increase, and we expect within the next few years, with the actual results of LNG, the financial returns coming into the people like royalties and other money trickling down the economy, we expect the travel in the domestic sector, right, plus our Papua New Guineans traveling overseas for overseas experience going to be increasing.
Do you think this increase can be sustained after the construction phase of the LNG?
Not really. In relation to international travel, it can't be sustained. So the fleet planning has been done in such a way. It is we are retiring certain aircraft at certain point of time. We have kept our options open, and domestic travel will continue to grow. We have seen that in happening before LNG started, and also it's going to continue. At the same time, I must emphasize, Air Niugini is making a lot of efforts on our own to develop tourism into the country. And in 2013, Air Niugini will be establishing its tour company in Australia, and we will be, so far in the past we relied on other tour operators to promote Papua New Guinea. Right. We see that the impact is not happening, and for us to do that, we are trying to take it ourselves. And also in Australian market, we have an advertising program happening in 2013, right, to eliminate the negative perception in Australian market on Papua New Guinea, so that the people can think about a destination and feel free to go to Papua New Guinea. These programs are in process now.
But do you think the perception of Papua New Guinea as not being the place to visit has changed somewhat?
It's progressively changing. At the same time, we need to look at some of the negative aspects that are happening as well. So it's a two-way street. Yes. And from tour developer's point of view, the tour developer needs to feel comfortable to send a tourist, a customer to Papua New Guinea, and also expect that the same customer will come back and give positive feedback. So otherwise tour operators will have an impact on that. So I think it's constantly changing, and also we all have to work together to make that positive impact into the country, because country has, after all this mining boom and all these resource projects, then what's the next?
That's right.
The tourism is the future of the country, and agriculture and tourism, those two things also have to go hand in hand, and we have to develop that. Whilst we go through this resource boom, we have to develop the tourism development as well together, so that it will take over the future.
Now, the Air Niugini brand has become a little bit more aggressively marketed. What do you see happening with the brand in the next 2 to 5 years?
Okay. In relation to Air Niugini branding, we started with things internally. First, we changed our livery in the aircraft. It's still rolling over.
Yes.
We changed our cabin crew uniform.
Yes. Very
soon, I hope by 1st of January 2013, you will see a new uniform at the airports.
Wow.
And so that's the third one. We have introduced new color scheme into the aircraft. When our new aircraft upgrade comes in, this is 767 and also 737s, you will see a different branding in that aircraft as well. In terms of our branding, we want to see the market in the region that we operate. When someone says Air New Guinea, they remember the brand that we are promoting.
Yes.
And Air New Guinea brand is a new branding programs will continue for the next several years forward. Yeah.
Do your brand strategies also extend to the food and the in-flight service?
Yes, it is. And in relation to in-flight services, our in-flight entertainment system is completely refurbished with the new refurbishing program that we have. The 767, both economy class and business class, our passengers will be in a position to watch a movie of their choice.
Fantastic.
And also in relation to the catering, we have a catering upgrade program. We will have, we want to give serve our customers a meal that they can remember. So we are in that regard, we are improving those two aspects. And also in relation to our loyalty program, there are a lot of changes going through the loyalty program. There are new staff being recruited to address some of the challenges we have not been in a position to successfully address in the past. So the company has that focus to address the branding and also the loyalty program focused issue for the future.
Wonderful plans, and thank you for talking to us about them today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
That is a lot of serious marketing. Do stay with us. When we return, we talk to the director of Firewall Logistics. Before a resource project can get off the ground in PNG, landowners have to be consulted. Communication with traditional landowners is a must. A company that recognizes that need is Firewall Logistics. We had a talk with their director, Craig McConaughey.
Thank you for coming in, Craig.
Thank you.
Now, tell us a bit about your company. Who are you and what do you do?
Our company is a facilitator or contractor to the oil and gas industry and the mining industry, and we're some of the first movers that go into remote areas and talk with the people, organise our logistics, build camps and facilitate the entry of the technical people to do their work.
Right. So you would have to have very close relations with the people in the communities where you're operating?
Well, we have a cadre of people who have a lot of experience in Papua New Guinea working in rural areas, both expatriates and Papua New Guineans who have worked as patrol officers or have been in the country for decades working in various segments of the industry. And they have those unique capabilities of being able to sit down with villagers and talk and understand the problems and then relay them to the companies so that we can have an understanding of the expectations of each and how we're going to work together.
Now, Craig, you yourself have had a long-standing history in PNG.
Yes, I have. I went to Papua New Guinea in 1969 as a cadet patrol officer, and I've worked in Papua New Guinea on and off for 43 years, and I enjoy the place a lot. The dynamics of Papua New Guinea, the changing environment, is always exciting compared to anywhere else.
Now, where is Firewall Logistics concentrated currently? What are your areas of operation?
Well, actually we're working in all areas of the country, both in the petroleum industry and in the mining industry. Currently we have activities in the Western Province, in the Sepik Province, the Central Gulf provinces, so and the Morobe Province for that matter. So we're sort of broadly spread.
And I imagine you'd have to have community projects in the areas you work in. What's your or what advantages do you bring to the communities you work in?
Well, community projects are really part of the project management. If you're going into an area, you must focus on issues that are really reciprocity. It's giving back something to the community. If you're going to enter a community, the community also expects a little in return. In addition to wages, employment, you have to offer other facilities, and usually that is involving health. So those sorts of facilities are set up and organised with your medical team and so on and so forth, and the community appreciates that very much, because that's one of the essential things that the community is after, medical services. And in remote areas it's very hard to find good medical services.
I was going to ask you the difficulties you face in working in the remote areas.
Well, they're extreme, because you're so far from let's say Port Moresby or from a major centre, and usually it's by helicopter support or by fixed wing support to small airstrips, or by barge up rivers or whatever. It's usually days and days. It takes a lot of organisation, takes a lot of logistics to get things you need on the ground in place when you need them. You therefore have to think ahead, and you have to be planning everything well in advance, so that when you do need something you have them there ready, or else it stops the project or stops the medical supply or whatever it might be.
So what's Firewall's view of the resource industry in PNG and the future?
Well, today it's fantastic. Every part of the country has some activity happening, and it's just amazing how much there is going on. And it's a conference like this in Sydney that opens up everybody's eyes to what everybody else is doing. It's just enormous. What we need to do is capture all of that so that it is focused on delivery, and that the people do benefit from the resources that are being discovered and developed. It's imperative.
Is it your understanding that at that very grassroots level, where it does tend to start, is there an understanding of the benefits of mining? Is there an understanding of the policies?
I think you could answer that by saying yes, there is an understanding, but Papua New Guinea is made up of a lot of areas that only focus on what's happening in their area. Everybody that you go to is desperate for something to be found, because they see that as their ticket to better services and so on and so forth. So our issue is also managing expectation, because all of a sudden, if it's not managed, it can run away with itself.
Yes.
And it's very difficult to develop a project if the expectations exceed what your capabilities are.
That's right. That's right. And
so we have to be very careful how we manage
oftentimes
those.
the outcomes are probably not good.
Well, we've been to areas where the outcome has been negative, and we've been to areas where the outcome is successful, but you still have to manage it either way, so that people understand that these are long-term projects too. You might miss on the first occasion, but on the second occasion there might be success, but you still have to manage each day, each half day, with the people's expectations and how we approach things. That's very important to the success of any project, to its fruition.
Sounds like your work involves a lot of patience.
It's patience, but it's understanding too, and empathy. You've got to be able to empathise as to what the people are thinking, and that's the secret to good community affairs, good community relationships, is trying to have an understanding of what they are thinking and how they're thinking. And if you've spent enough time in Papua New Guinea, you'll realise that you don't always get that right. But if you're a good listener, it's a good start.
Wise words. Thank you so much for your time, Craig.
My pleasure.
Craig McConaughey, Director of Firewall Logistics.
That's it for another program of Resource PNG. You're welcome to view this presentation again on our Resource PNG page at www.mtv.com.pg, and do email us if you have any suggestions or queries. Until the same time next Thursday, have a pleasant week.